Everybody, welcome back. Craig Shoup here with Bob Garver. Bob Garver is our New York City film critic. If Bob is here, we are talking movies, and we are right in the middle of summer, and we are talking about one of the most highly anticipated summer blockbusters here in the 2023 release calendar. And it seems like it's been a few years in the making. It's Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Bob, how are you doing? And tell us about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is, of course, the uh, latest in the Tom Cruise franchise. Cruise, I think has a good chance of making it two in a row of having the highest grossing movie of the year after last year's Top Gun Maverick. Um, I mean, people know what they're getting with Mission Impossible at this point.
Right.
A lot of spy stuff, a lot of really great action sequences with Tom Cruise doing a lot of his own stunts, um, especially one with a motorcycle that they love to show off in the trailers.
Right.
This one sees Ethan Hunt and his team going up against a basically a sentient computer program that's bent on world domination. The computer, I guess, is employing this old enemy of Ethan Hunt's uh, named Gabriel, played by Isai Morales, who turns out is a really good actor, and I'm surprised we haven't seen more of him, um, before this point in his career because he has a really great presence. But it's pretty formulaic as Mission Impossible movies go. There's going to be twists and turns and people disguising themselves as various characters to get ahead.
Right.
Lots of crosses and double crosses. Just kind of wait for between one action scene and another. I mean, it's not great, not terrible, just typical by Mission Impossible standards. I think the scenes between action sequences kind of drag, but then the action sequences themselves will kind of elevate the movie. Ultimately, it balances out to about a C.
Okay. What are your thoughts on some of these previous entries we've seen here in the Mission Impossible franchise? Obviously, they've had a lot of success, and it's kind of one of these franchises that some people might believe, and I think I'm one of them that they've kind of hit their stride. Ghost Protocol and some of these other films. Um, where do you kind of come down on sort of the Mission Impossible franchise now that we're 7 movies in?
I think they're fine. I think they're, kind of like the James Bond movies. You kind of expect certain story beats, for better or worse. Not really elevated. I really did enjoy the last one. What was the sixth one? Fallout.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Fallout. This one, I don't know. Maybe I was got too excited for it because of all the really great reviews leading up to it. I didn't think this one was all that special.
Right. Okay.
Also, I think it makes a mistake in putting that part one in the title. For starters, it drags out the title, and also since we know there's going to be a part two, it seems like the stakes are lower.
Yeah. I know that's one of the issues maybe with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, where it leaves you kind of hanging on by a thread there at the very end,
I see what you did there.
wanting some more. Um, is that sort of the problem here too, where this is one of those, let's set it up for the payoff next year when the next movie comes out, and maybe leaves you hanging a little bit, or does that do a little bit less than what maybe Across the Spider-Verse did?
Um, about the same as across the Spider Verse. Definitely more than Fast X earlier this year, but I mean, again, this isn't going to be the final mission for Ethan Hunt,
Sure.
and you can probably guess that most of the cast is gonna
Sure.
make it as well.
Absolutely. All right. So probably still going to be a huge box office success. And
Yes.
honestly, the way the box office has gone so far this summer might not be a bad thing if Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning maybe saves a little bit of that dropping box office number. So our next movie is Joyride. Bob, tell us a little bit about Joyride.
Joyride tells the story of two Chinese women, one who immigrated when she was very young, um, or I'm sorry, two both raised in America. One who immigrated when she was very young, one that was adopted by an American couple, um, taking, I believe, their first trip to China, at least together, um, while one goes on a business trip, and they get into some wacky R-rated adventures, along with one of their cousins and a former roommate of the other one, who was a soap opera actress. And they just get into some drug-fueled, wild, wacky adventures. They wind up stranded. They wind up getting in fights, but they're always there for each other, and they're always ready to make some crude jokes with one another. I thought it was okay. It's basically, I think, a better version of the actually the latest book club movie from earlier this year. It falls victim to some genre trappings. Like, I could tell when they need to suffer a setback here. They're going to fight here and make up here, etc. But usually the dialogue is pretty snappy, and the humor, for the most part, works very well.
Okay, well, and it's something different here for moviegoers to kind of take on. What's your final grade for Joyride?
B minus. We haven't had I don't think, a really good R-rated comedy for a while, and I think this one fills a gap that was badly needed.
Okay, well, filling the, I guess, horror movie gap in the summer here is Insidious: The Red Door. This is what, number 5 in the franchise, so it's
Number
definitely
5 in the franchise. I had honestly forgotten about number 4.
yeah. I don't disagree there. But it's kind of had legs, though. I mean, it's done well enough to generate 5 releases, and here we are in the middle of summer. Patrick Wilson, who actually is a star in, I believe, all of the franchise movies, is actually behind the camera for this one, directing this film. So tell us a little bit about Insidious: The Red Door.
Um, Patrick Wilson and his now basically grown son, who's going off to college. Um, they've had their memories erased following the events of the either second or fourth movie. Maybe, I guess, the fourth movie. They've had their memories erased, and they're getting visions of some things that happened in their past that they've forgotten about. So basically, they have spend a lot of the movie having to relearn things from the previous movies, and then encounter them and find a way to beat them all over again. But it's not a very memorable movie. There's one good scene where Wilson's in a MRI machine, but otherwise it's pretty forgettable. It's just a bunch of jump scares. Sometimes demons show up. Otherwise, it's just your standard horror movie stuff.
A final grade for it?
Patrick Wilson is somewhat jarringly, I think, on the film's soundtrack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's actor, director, and singer on this one.
Okay, wow. A
Final grade C minus. I'm gonna forget this I'm gonna go back to forgetting this as soon as the week is out.
All right. All right. Well, again, though, another. I mean, it's a franchise, obviously, but certainly another option for moviegoers this week. Our next movie is Sound of Freedom. Tell us a little bit about Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom is a Christian-backed movie starring Jim Caviezel, um, where he plays, I believe, an FBI agent. No, Homeland Security. He plays a Homeland Security agent in charge of bringing down child traffickers. Um, and he decides it's not enough to just bring down the traffickers, usually after the fact. He decides that he needs to make more of an effort actually rescuing children, which is a very noble goal. And he goes on two missions, one sanctioned by Homeland Security, one not, to rescue children and reunite a family. This movie is, although it's rated PG-13, is very disturbing in places because just the implied behavior by some of the criminals he encounters is very disturbing. Um, it's a well-intentioned movie. It's low budget, I think, is showing in places. You can tell they had to cut some corners financially as far as hiring a lot of actors and setting up action sequences maybe the way they wanted. I was willing to give this movie a C or maybe as high as a B minus,
Okay.
but then the movie kind of steps on its own toes in a special message during the credits where Caviezel himself implores people to try to get other people to see the movie.
Oh.
They could have used this spot to try to advocate for an anti-human trafficking organization, I feel.
Yeah.
But instead, they're just trying to raise money for the movie.
Hmm.
That's all they're doing, and
Yeah.
frankly, it comes off as greedy, and it undermines the selfless tone of the movie.
Right. Are you surprised that a movie like this maybe cut some corners on the budget, given that it was a holiday release? I mean, it came out July 4th, and it's actually done fairly well, probably at the box office, given its budget, maybe. And are you kind of surprised that maybe they didn't put a little bit more money into this?
No, I know that it had budgetary constraints. I'm not surprised by that. I'm just saying maybe they could have done a better job of covering it up.
Okay. All right. So then a final grade here for Sound of Freedom.
Got to take it all the way down to a C minus because of the special message.
Okay. All right. Well, I know we've got some big movies on the horizon. Are we going to be taking a week off, though, and getting ready for Barbie and Oppenheimer?
Yes, I don't think I'm going to be able to see both Barbie and Oppenheimer within the next week.
Sure.
So it'll have to wait until early the week after for me to review both Barbie and Oppenheimer.
All right. Well, we can't wait. We'll probably skip next week, but maybe we can catch up the early following week and talk about two of the bigger movies to come out here with Christopher Nolan and Oppenheimer and Greta Gerwig's Barbie. So, as always, Bob, appreciate your time and have fun at the movies.
Thank you very much. This show is the highlight of my week.